Ron,
Mm-hmm.
what kind of cell phone did you get for the first time? What was your first cell phone?
The first one I got was from my employer. It was a Nextel with the push-to-talk, walkie-talkie kind of.
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah.
Were you able to use it for personal use or just for work?
Personal, too. I had to keep it with me at all times.
Oh, okay. Daria, what kind of phone did you have?
It was one of the early gens of Nokia.
Ooh. I don't remember what brand mine was, but it was black. It was very thin. It was like a razor, like thin like a razor, and you flipped it up. And in between, like the hinge where it flips, there was a camera that you could roll. So you could either take selfies or pictures facing outward.
Yeah, some of my friends had those. They were fancy.
Oh, very fancy.
Yeah, I just had, my parents didn't, like, they were resistant to the phones for a really long time. I finally got, like, the most basic phone you could get. It was $20 because there was an emergency on the school bus and I couldn't call them, which is the only reason I had a phone for, like, 10 years.
Yeah, one of my husband, Eddie, one of his really good friends has what he calls a dumb phone.
That's what I call them, too.
Yep, he can make calls and text.
My dad is a dumb phone aficionado.
It's not hard to do. It just does the two basic things.
Well, he struggles with that, too. The two basic things.
Oh, my gosh. Okay, but today's youth are not getting dumb phones.
No.
They're getting real fancy phones, and it's becoming a problem in schools.
Mm-hmm.
So earlier this year, I think it was in March, Governor DeWine launched a messaging effort calling all school districts to restrict screen time for middle and high school students while at school. In his State of the State address, he said that phones are a distraction from the learning process, an impediment to building basic social skills, and a drain on kids' mental health.
Okay.
So the lawmakers were like, that's no problem. We have a fix for that. So they sent DeWine House Bill 250. The Ohio Senate passed the bill last month, and the Senate passed it last month, and the House followed this week. Was that last week? Yeah, last week. And both were unanimous.
Wow.
The bill doesn't have any like statewide standards, but it's each school district must pass policy emphasizing that students should use phones, quote, as limited as possible during the school day. It allows exceptions for students, a student learning, or to monitor or address a health concern. So, what did you guys have? Well, Ron, you didn't have phones in school. Daria, what did you have to do with your phone in school?
Phones were completely banned from the moment they first entered schools, before smartphones were even really a widespread thing. If you were caught with a phone or even an iPod, it would be confiscated. Like, they had a zero tolerance policy for technology.
Okay, so that's my question. Can you take away something that isn't, like, can the school take it away if it's not, like, it's your property?
That was something that they ran into because parents would get very mad. They're like, you didn't pay for it. Like, some teachers would go as far as to say you're not getting it back for the rest of the year. But
yeah,
they literally can't do that because the parents paid for it. When phones became super widespread, like, you technically weren't supposed to have it, but it got to the point where they couldn't do anything because everybody had one.
Right.
Yeah.
But for me, it's kind of strange that the phones are so widespread in school, because it's just, with the era I was in when I grew up, that was just normal. Like, no, you don't have your phone at school. It's fine at recess or whatever. So I think it's strange that there needs to be a law for it, because for me, that's just how it was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Ron, was probably similar for your kids as me, but, like, we had to put our phones, like, in our lockers or something like that. We couldn't have them out, like, on our desks, or, like, there was no way you're going to be caught texting in class.
Well, you shouldn't. But
yeah.
My son told me about a little thing they called mosquito ringtone.
What?
And it'll give you a high-pitched ringtone.
Adults can't hear it.
Yeah. We've lost enough.
Old.
Yeah. By the time you're old enough to teach, you're 25 more or less and up. You've started to lose some of those high frequencies. And so the kids could set a high-frequency ringtone that they would hear and know, oh, I got a text. And teacher would have no idea.
Wow. I didn't know about that.
Pretty clever.
I'm upset about that. Well, Brian's not here to talk about what's going on with kids, and his kids and what he sees with, like, his kids' classmates today. So if you're a parent of a child who's school age, has a phone, text or call 440-546-2255. Let us know what's going on with your kids and their phones at schools. With this new House bill, so it was passed by the Senate and the House, and now it's going to Governor DeWine to say, okay, so what are we going to do with it? So assuming he's going to sign it, right, because he's the one that kind of started this.
Right.
I doubt it will fail at this point.
Yeah. If it passed both the House and the Senate, now it's with him, it would be schools would have to adopt the policies starting in 2025.
No definition on what that policy is, really.
No, it just says, quote, as limited as possible and
Yeah.
allows for exceptions for health concerns.
That can mean literally anything.
Yeah, so this is a do-nothing bill asking school boards to
Right.
spend time to do nothing.
Yeah, just put in a
write up
policy in
words.
place.
Yeah, it's a big show. I think phones in school, though, when Columbine happened, it really triggered a lot of parents to be
Yeah.
like, I want my kid to be able to call the police or call help if there's a school shooting, and not just be stuck in a classroom hoping they can get out a window or something.
Right. Yeah, it says many Ohio schools already have such policies in place. For instance, Akron Public Schools prohibit cell phone use in school buildings. Students' phones are held in special pouches with magnetic locks during the school day. Parma City Schools limit cell phone use at high school to break times between class, plus lunch and study halls. Smartphones are not allowed at its middle school and elementary schools. In contrast, Beechwood City Schools requires its middle school students to keep phones in their lockers during the day, but high school teachers have discretion over what to do with their students' phones. Some use lock boxes, some want them face down on their desks. So text or call 440-546-2255. What do we think about this? Keeping your kids' phones away from them during school. You paid for it. So should the school really be able to dictate if they can or can't have it during the school day? We're talking about a new bill that has been passed by Ohio Senate and the House. So it's going to Governor DeWine's desk now. It is about banning phones in schools.
Mm-hmm.
But it's kind of non-committal.
Right.
It's just like schools must have a policy about phones.
Yeah.
That's kind of all it is. And Brian's not here to talk to us about what's going on in schools. I don't know. I have a 3-year-old, so I don't know what's going on.
I wonder if the aim of the bill was more to just empower schools, because
Yeah.
parents have been really upset that there's been, some parents, any sort of restrictions at all for the phones, because they're like, well, I paid for it, which, I don't think the teachers have the right to confiscate it unless it's being a genuine distraction.
Yeah.
But to say you can't even have your phones at all, which some schools have tried to do, I don't know, just letting the parents know we do have legal recourse.
Yeah. What do you think about, I feel like for like a middle school, obviously elementary school, just call the school.
Right.
Figure out what's going on, or the school will call you. Middle school, I'm kind of in that same, feeling that kind of same way. But for high school, I feel like a student should be able to contact their parents or text their parents if they needed to for something.
But I try to think of why they would need to,
Yeah,
other
during
than
school.
like a school shooting or,
Yeah, right.
but like if you're feeling sick, you don't
Go to the office.
Yeah, you don't text your mom and say, "Hey, can you pick me up?" You got to go to the
Because
office.
you got to sign out.
Yeah. If you're unhappy with the teacher who reprimanded you for talking
using your phone?
again, you shouldn't text your mom about
Right.
that.
Just tell her later.
Yeah. It just seems like so many of the things, trying to make plans for after school.
Just wait.
Yeah. Wait, you can do that later. You
Yeah.
don't need it in class.
Someone did text it and say, why should the classroom be different from the workplace? Your phone is a distraction. Lots of employers have a no cell phone policy. Oh, really? Someone said, in our high school, they use their phones as a tool. In middle school, no phones are allowed during the school day.
Yeah, that's a good point. A lot of schools are, because it's so prevalent, they work it into actually using it.
Yeah, and then some phones have things like Chromebooks and stuff like that they use instead.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's kind of hard. It's like, well, you want them to use this one technology like a Chromebook, but you don't want them to use their phones.
Yeah. And see, back when I was in school, calculators were so new that the school had bought calculators and then
Texas Instrument.
screwed them down onto a piece of board that was so big you could not, it'd be obvious if you were trying to carry it out of the classroom.
What did they think you were going to do with it?
Steal it. Because at that point,
They were nice.
yeah, it wasn't the little plastic TI
Yeah.
30s or whatever we had later. These were, probably $300 calculators. And it's so funny how that changed, even just through the course of my high school, by the time I was a senior, we had I don't know, $50 to $100
Yeah.
TI-30, whatever it was back then.
Yeah. We had someone text in and say, I'm a teacher in a public school. Last year, students would be yelling at me all kinds of bad words when asked them nicely to put it away. I was insulted almost once a week. 80% of the students would be watching movies, playing games, and texting. They got violently screaming at me if I said something. There was barely anyone learning. This school year, after, I don't know what that means, maybe after the bands or something like that, it'd be a different world. It made a world of difference. At the beginning, it was actually strange to see every face in the room look at me while I teach.
Wow.
That's sad.
Yeah.
Not only are teachers not getting paid enough, but they're also not getting listened to.
Yeah.
And people are just looking at their phones.
And then they get shade cast on them from parents who are like, look at this education system. Our
That's
our
so
kids
true.
are coming out and they can't read or write. Well, it's not for lack of the teachers trying.
Exactly. They're trying, but the phones that you bought your children, they're just staring at them.
Yes.
I think I'm getting more and more convinced I'm just going to do dumb phones for my kids until they're like 17 or something.
Right.
We'll see. I say that now.
Right. But
We'll see what it's like then.
It's a good stand to start with.
Yeah, we have Kim in North Canton. She's a teacher. Kim, what are you thinking about?
Oh, good morning. What a fantastic topic, and I really appreciate the point that the last person who touched it shared with us, because it is absolutely a problem that has gotten way beyond our ability to control this. Teachers are abused in schools. The kids really have opted out. They've opted out, and now education is not important anymore. And not simply to fault the children, because what we're looking at is a real addiction. We're looking at neurophysiological addiction. Yeah. So the brain has been taken over, right, by neurological systems where they're getting an immediate hit. We're getting an answer. We don't have to think. We've got AI. We've got all these methods to get our work done quickly, but maybe not correctly because we're not thinking. So to take this technology away, which could be so helpful, we're also causing everybody to take a step back. We've already had a step back with COVID. We're trying to catch up. It looks like a great thing, but in reality, without restrictions of some sort, they cannot do it by themselves. This is asking an addict to put the needle down.
Yeah.
They cannot do it. They cannot. So it's something where we all really have to kind of understand what is happening, the dramatic nature that it has and it is having. We have to do something. And parents, of course, for them, they're not on the front lines with this. They don't see just what an impact it is having. So it's a really important conversation that we're having, because these academic deficits are not going to go away.
And Kim, what do you think, if you were going to make the policy for your school, what would you have it be for your school?
I would love to be able to have everybody on board, lock them all up, get them all done at break or when you leave, that sort of thing. They just can't be part of it. And the methodologies that we use to get the phones in at any way, it's very creative and very slick.
Yeah, our teachers are like people who, like you said, are like taking the needle away from drug addicts. And that's why, unfortunately, you guys are getting the brunt of all the yelling and unkindness.
And sadly, that is not a tongue-in-cheek statement.
Yes, yeah.
We can look at the brain scans, and I will show the students these are brain scans themselves. So it's not me being mean. It's not being mean, a judger. This is really what's happening, and we would not want that for ourselves.
Yeah.
If we were drinking, pine salt, we wouldn't do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. Thanks so much, Kim, for your thoughts and for joining us today.
Have a wonderful.
You too.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Aaron, you're a teacher also. Aaron, what do you have to say about this?
Yeah, I've been in the public education system for 24 years, and you've seen a dramatic change with the implementation or I guess we call it the evolution of cell phones coming into the classroom. From the obvious things in terms of just distractions from the educational environment, but then you get the sexting and you get the bullying. You get all the issues, the disciplinary issues that come out of cell phone uses. usage. And my issue has always been there's empirical research, as was pointed out earlier. There's empirical research that shows us this is detrimental to students. And we as leaders in the community, if we have this information at our fingertips, why are we not using it to benefit our young people? You know, I teach high school, and why are we not saying, like, okay, we know that this is not good, so we have 7.5 hours a day that we can do what we believe is best for young people and go, we're going to keep this out of your hands because we know the impact that this has.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was talking to someone earlier, and I was mentioning the idea that, like, I don't know if your listeners have seen Social Dilemma. It's a Netflix piece about the impact of social media. And just especially, it's just, I actually show it at the beginning of the year to my students because I'm in social science, and I show it because one of the impacts that is just saddening is what it's done with young teens, young teen girls, specifically their suicide rates.
Mm-hmm.
And just the direct connection when the suicide rates have increased, and it's right alongside with kind of the evolution and the cell phones in the classroom. And it's just, you know, for us to say to knowingly to know these things, but yet not to act on it is mind-boggling to me, especially as, you know, those who are in the field and see the impact. And society, you know, people, you know, kind of knee-jerk reaction. Society is going to go on. Like, society has gone on thousands of years without cell phones, and it's going to go on until the Lord returns, you know, until the Lord tarries here, and we're going to be all right. Like, you know, public education has endured without cell phones. You know, in terms of parents, you know, feeling like they need to have contact with their students. I mean, look, I know it may be a little archaic, but look, there's other ways of communicating. I mean, if you need to call the school, that's what used to happen. You call the school office, they get a hold of your student. You can use email. Anything that kids need to be able to do that is with an electronic device, or they can do on their computer, you know? But these are, and then a lot of the schools, like our school had put in a policy, finally, this past year, they put in a policy. It used to be just at the discretion of the teacher. Well, then you have different teachers having different policies.
Yeah, so they're going class to class, and it changes.
Yes, absolutely. I have a phone caddy. Kids come in, students come in, they put them in the phone caddy. And that's how, obviously, they're assigned a phone caddy. They put it in there. And it just got to the point in terms of, like, other teachers not having the same policy, and from the top administration, them just saying, well, you just do what you want. That just doesn't work. It has to come from the top. And then the school district said, okay, we're gonna go ahead and implement a policy, but they could have them during the halls, and they can have them in study halls. It doesn't work. The bottom line is, when the kids walk into school, the cell phone needs to be under lock, in box, out of their hands. And I'm telling you, in terms of the educational environment and the betterment and student learning, I can't tell you how much better. At least I would believe. I wouldn't know for sure. At least I believe when I'm able to keep that in tabs in my classroom, it's better. But I just think it would be a positive. I just don't understand. As far as this law is concerned, too, I agree with you guys. What's it really doing? I mean, it may be empowering the school, but, like, I could see our schools saying, "Oh yeah, we have a policy in place." Well, we have a policy, but you're not really enforcing it, and you're not doing anything about it.
Exactly.
So how good is it then? I mean. And I agree with the idea. You want to give, we got over 600 public school districts in our state. You want to give them the flexibility to kind of determine what's best, at home for them. But it's incumbent upon the leadership of the individual school districts, their boards, their superintendents, say, look, this is bad. We know this is bad. We're not going to put drugs in the hands of our students and just say, let them, figure it out. Like, that doesn't work.
Yeah, and this is the same. We're letting our kids, have these in their hands at all times, and they're getting that constant dopamine hit of scrolling on TikTok.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for sharing your thoughts, Aaron. If you could stay on the line, I'm going to have Daria send you something. So stay on the line. She'll get your address, and we'll send you something. So thanks so much for calling in.